out there. I think as pastors, preachers, Sunday school teachers, small group leaders, ministry leaders, whoever you are, we have got to get back to the nature and character of God in our preaching and teaching. Here's why. There is a horribly wrong assumption that Christians know it. D.A. Carson wrote a book, The Cross and Christian Ministry. If you haven't read it, you should. In that, he quoted a guy who was with the Mennonites that he had met, and he said, here's the thing he noticed about the Mennonite community, that the first generation loved the gospel, the second generation assumed the gospel, the third generation hated the gospel. There is an assumption that your people understand the nature and character of God. And because there is this assumption, most preaching is now built around pragmatics because they know that stuff. So they either know this is what God's like, this is what God does, or this is what he doesn't do. So we're going to focus on pragmatics, or that's not important. And so when that happens, you're left with a moralistic religion that says do this, don't do that, but never has a foundation or a basis for that behavior. It doesn't work. Then you get, here's how I've seen the de-churched happen. You get men and women where growing up in churches where the gospel is assumed and the nature and character of God is assumed, are taught morality. Man, I went to VBS growing up. I heard that God hates liars. We even sang a song about it. All right? I knew that true love waits, that we shouldn't drink beer, we shouldn't cuss, and any movie that was not about the crucifixion of Christ and was R-rated, you should not watch. And I grew up in that. A lot of people grew up in that. We grew up in this, do this, don't do this. Well, that's moralistic deism at its best. It doesn't transform. Now, here's why we walk away from the church. We walk away from the church when, with our best white-knuckled discipline, we accomplish those feats of morality, and then you let something bad happen to us. You let our wife leave us. You let a girl break our hearts. You let us not get into the school that we wanted to get into. You let our parents divorce. And our mindset is, I was good. And this is how you repay me. I behaved. I didn't see Terminator 2. I did not go to the Run DMC show. I did not. I did this, I did this, I did this. You owe me. And that's how you get the de-churched. They were sold, here's how you put God into your debt. But you don't put God into your debt. I know this because really, really faithful men in the scriptures have it go really, really bad for them. We've got to get back to being theological. And I know, like, one of the things I hear out on the road all the time at conferences, not one like this. This has a stellar lineup. But I'm not kissing up. If we had a schmuck here, I'd tell you. I'd be like, look, this next session, roll out. You get guys that say they're not theological. Well, I'm just not theological. Well, I'm not just. Well, here's the problem with that. If you're opening your mouth and you're talking about God, you're being theological. The problem is, if it's not rooted in biblical, historical orthodoxy, you're probably being a heretic. So you can't use that line. I'm not theological. You are being theological. It's just really bad. C.S. Lewis states it well. They all say the ordinary reader does not want theology. Give him plain, practical religion. I have rejected their advice. I do not think the ordinary reader is such a fool. Theology means the science of God. And I think any man who wants to think about God at all would like to have the clearest and most accurate ideas about him which are available. D.A. Carson says, the better we know God, the more we will want all of our existence to revolve around him. And we'll see that the only goals and plans that matter are those tied to God himself and our eternity with him. We've got to get back to discussing the nature and character of the triune God of the universe.